What up, everyone? Big Kev back in the building. Today we have the Subculture of England that was banned. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Let's check it out.
The police say we're not trying to kill music, this is just common sense, they're trying to stop murder.
From the decaying ashes of the chav, in the early to mid 2010s, a brand new subculture was emerging. One that was much more violent, much more organised, and much more controversial. The Roadman. Tensions between the UK authorities and the Roadman grew and grew and grew, eventually leading to laws being passed banning the music they held sacred.
Really? I never even... They said this was like the 2010s? I never even remember hearing that a place was banning, like the UK was banning certain types of music because of violence. Wow, I completely missed that somehow.
UK drill. Today we will explore the...
I have heard of UK drill before though.
Roadman subculture. All black North Faces, puffer jackets, shotter bags, Nike Air Max 97s, and they're extremely complex and widely enjoyed slang.
You know what, anytime I see you, I'm gonna lick off your face. Don't think they actually mean lick off your... No.
Roadman culture...
Yeah, I didn't think they physically meant lick your face off.
Culture is very interesting. It's become massively influential on the wider mainstream culture, even outside of the UK.
Yeah, I've definitely seen this style before, lots of times. I didn't know it came from a specific movement, though.
Okay. But before Drake started dressing in Stone Island, the Roadman's origins came from the old dying subculture of the Chav. Now, I made a whole video about that. If you haven't seen it, I'll link it below. But effectively, the Chavs were like the underclass of British society. They were known for being troublemakers, very antisocial, very criminal. But by the end of the 2010s, the Chav era really came to an end. But fear not, quietly in the underground in the 2000s culture, a brand new subculture was emerging, and it all starts with music. Grime was a genre of music in the UK that evolved from the electronic genre of garage. Yeah, it was pretty similar, but instead of having Daniel Bedingfield emotionally singing how he's got to get through this,
Yeah.
I gotta get through this.
yeah,
I remember that song.
had Wiley rapping about how he was gonna leg a man down.
He's the godfather of grime for 2 decades.
I've definitely heard of grime before, but I'm not real familiar actually with the music itself.
Wiley has been an influential figure in British culture.
Wiley is often credited as like the godfather of grime. What's interesting about Wiley at that time is that he had a very unique way of speaking, a different accent.
Before you can hear me, but I'm speaking in a London accent.
As London's ethnic demographic changed over the last 20 to 30 years, a very specific way of speaking and accent started to pop up around about the 80s and 90s, which now some people refer to as the multicultural London English accent.
Ethan was on a girly commercial thing and man was on a hardcore grime roll thing. His thing what fit a man's thing.
It's basically a mix of like traditional Cockney geezer accent.
I don't remember nothing. I was obviously smashed out me tree.
Combined with elements of Jamaican patois.
Let's talk about America for me, myself, and you saying, boy, we're good.
This combination would go on to develop the very iconic Roadman dialect that we hear today.
How do we say hello? One. British. One more dose, man's gonna kick you out there like a soccer ball.
But you see, on top of just speaking different, there was also a far more edgier attitude that came with what we would now call the Roadman. An attitude that was more aggressive, more in your face, more bravado. And you can really hear this in the lyrics of grime. Often rapping about money, cars, girls, partying. These young men who existed in very poor conditions were trying to find ways of gaining respect in their community. Respect that was often withheld from the wider British public. And so, pretty understandably, they weren't very happy about that. And you could hear that in the lyrics of grime.
These bullets will make man run for their lives.
By the mid to early 2000s, we were getting closer and closer to what we could call a roadman. But something was missing. And that was the fashion. I think this was most evident in the music video for Game Over by Tinchy Stryder. So the track starts with Giggs and we see him wearing this outfit that sort of looks like he didn't know what he was dressing for. Like he could have been going out for a pint with his mates, attending a baseball game, or going on a dinner date. And then we jump over to Devlin, who's dressed as if he's just come from beating up away fans at a football match. And then finally you got Tinchy Stryder, who has so much jewellery on him it looks like he ran out of money for the rest of his outfit. And so as you can see, the fashion was lacking. But now it was the early 2010s and grime had actually reached a very low point. After its massive success, the sound became very commercialized and tried being sold to a mainstream audience. It started to sound very inauthentic and
Yeah, that's usually how it happens. Once it starts bubbling up from the underground, you know, it catches on and then everyone starts knocking it off.
grime just lost its popularity and it really died down. But that would all change in 2014 with the second coming of grime. Meridian Dan dropped the tune German Whip.
See man driving a German whip.
Now every single lad outside of a McDonald's was playing
Yeah, never heard that before.
this tune at full blast. Skepta released two tunes in particular that started doing really well, which is That's Not Me,
No, that's not me.
and Shut Down.
That's not me, and it's shut down.
Whereby in both tunes he was very specifically talking about fashion and why he changed how he dressed. Because of copyright, I'm gonna have to perform the tunes for you. Yeah, I used to wear Gucci, but I put it all in the bin. Because that's not me. True, I used to look like you, but dressing like a mess? Nah, that's not me. And then you got the other tune, Fashion Week, and it's shut down. Went to the show sitting in the front row in a black tracksuit and it's shut down. This sportswear roadman aesthetic was being popularized by Skepta. So much so that in 2015, Skepta did a fashion model walk in Milan, dressed head to toe as a roadman. As well, Stormzy was becoming a massive artist and he would often dress like a roadman. And then something insane happened.
I saw this guy and he had his hoodie on and his glasses, and I couldn't believe the pockets that he was finding and the consistency of his flows and just the choices that he was making.
Drake, for whatever reason, just absolutely fell in love with the UK. He would come out unannounced at underground grime events. He would collaborate with grime musicians, and there was endless jokes and memes about how Drake turns into a roadman every time he goes to England.
Man's never been in marquee when it's shut down, eh? Trust me, daddy.
But you see, as funny as this was, it was very beneficial to the UK music scene and the roadman culture. But you see, this is where things start to get dark. Around 2013, a new genre of music was emerging from Brixton in London, with two gangs called 150 and 67. They were from a very rough area and were very involved in the gang world. This genre was called UK drill. Now look, grime was also very gang heavy, talking about selling drugs, violence, etc. But drill took it to another level. From the dark, evil sounding instrumentals, to the lyrics talking about specific gang murders, showing weapons on camera, and basically showing off this lifestyle. Now the two groups, 150 and 67, had beef. This would be considered the first ever UK drill beef, but things would start to change on February 24th, 2015. Now 67 and 150 had been sending for each other over music, but it would be on this day where a member of 150 called SQ would be stabbed to death by a member of 67. Around this same sort of time, a member of 67 called Scribs was starting to actually blow up in the music industry. But you see, Scribs was a naughty boy. He was involved in lots of criminal cases, and these cases resulted in him receiving a ASBO, an antisocial behaviour order, where in 2014 the police banned him from making and performing music. But you see,
I've never heard of that term before, and I didn't even know that was a thing that you could do. I mean, maybe, I don't know if that's just specific to the UK or it's a type of law with different name, obviously, in other countries as well. But I didn't know that. I didn't know in the UK you could actually forbid someone from performing under their stage name.
Scribs was a very inventive man. He was able to scuttle his way around the ban by changing his name to LD and wearing a face mask. In 2014 to like 2017, UK drill was really blowing up. It had very much developed its own sound separate to the Chicago drill scene, and it was finding success in the mainstream world of music. You couldn't escape it. Every single roadman driving around a Vauxhall Corsa selling weed would be blaring out drill beats. And so this was the final piece of the puzzle for the roadman culture to truly take over. It seemed as though everyone loved drill, except for the police. The police were starting to link drill to escalating gang violence that was happening in the streets. These violent stabbings and shootings would happen after drill rappers would send for each other over tracks. One guy would kill one person and then talk about it in a track, and then another person would send a track back and then go and kill him. And it started to get out of hand.
Yeah, that's crazy. I mean, I've heard of some cases over here where people got their lyrics used against them in court when they got charged with crimes, but I didn't know it was, you know, becoming so common at a certain point, you know, in recent history over in the UK. I mean, I might have heard about individual cases, but so far I don't remember hearing about any of these specific people. It's I mean, except for, I mean, I know Drake obviously, but I mean any of the UK specific rappers, and I never even heard of the Roadman before.
To the point where the police took very extreme measures.
Today, a judge banned 5 young drill artists from performing or uploading songs that incite violence.
5 rappers from the group 1011 were banned from making music altogether.
The ruling is significant, thought to be the first time a modern-day ASBO has been used to censor art.
What they were specifically being banned from doing was mentioning in their lyrics death or injury. And
yeah, I mean, that's a pretty big deal. I know the up in arms that would happen over here if people started getting their art censored, and how badly they start freaking out. I mean, platforms do it now, especially more commonly with like people getting canceled and stuff like that. But even like 10 years ago, that was, you know, almost kind of like unheard of here, or the lengths that you'd have to go to get banned were pretty insane. And even then, you could find some alternative platform. You weren't banned altogether; you're just banned from, you know, a company's, you know, site or something like that, and that was their decision. It wasn't like a government order.
From mentioning named postcodes in like a gang-related context. If any of these members wanted to make a new song, they had to run it by the police 24 hours before releasing it. As well, they had to give 48 hours of notice to the police of the date and location of any performance or any filming of a music video, and have police on site at the time.
So not completely banned, just like an insane specific set of restrictions that made it probably, you know, very, very difficult to continue on.
Firstly, apologies to all the fans out in Germany right now. Obviously, can't make it there. Fed summoned me and Skendo to court.
As well, 2 other drill rappers called Skendo and AM had actually received a 2-year suspended sentence for performing the banned song Attempted 1.0. Now, you may be wondering what led the police to take these extreme actions. Around 2017, there had been a massive wave of knife crime. It'd been the highest it had been in a very long time, and a 22% rise. This sparked a debate whether drill had anything to do with this rise in knife crime, because it did seem a little coincidental that the height of drill being a genre that talked about stabbing and murdering just so happened to...
Yeah, it's crazy how, like, over here, you know, gun violence is so profound, but, you know, over there in the UK, it's more, you know, more knife violence, which is not even really a term you ever hear over here.
Be at the exact same time of this massive knife problem. The OG drill group 6-7, who was starting to do really well in the mainstream world, effectively had their entire first ever tour cancelled. And this was because the venues were scared of hosting them, due to a separate legal precedent which was called Form 696. Form 696 was created in 2005, and it required venues like nightclubs to hand over details to the authorities around who was performing at an event, what genre of music they produced, the target audience of that music, and their ethnicity. As you can imagine, this received quite a bit of criticism. It was seen as discriminating against rap, grime, and other underground black-led genres.
Yeah, that's because it was. I mean, I don't think there's really like any question about that.
2010, Giggs had a show cancelled under Form 696. JME also had a show cancelled, which led to him making a whole documentary on this controversy.
But I'm starting to get concerned that what we do is slowly being strangled by London's police, and in particular a form I keep hearing about called the 696. I was booked to play at Just Jam at the Barbican with Big Nasty in February, but following police advice, it was cancelled the day before without a valid reason.
There is a clear link between these drill videos, as they're called, and very serious violence.
Even though they sound sinister, they're really saying, come to my neighborhood, see what's going on.
The police say we're not trying to kill music, this is just common sense, they're trying to stop murder.
When we're trying to go to other venues now, it makes it hard. When you go to venues and they turn around and say no just because the police have kind of threatened them with revoking their license. It's a piss take, isn't it?
Jump forward now 10 years to drill, and Form 696 as well as these ASBOs were being used to suppress this music. But you see, the ban had the opposite reaction to what was intended. This controversy around drill only made drill cooler. It was now...
Yeah, I mean, that's usually how it goes, right? I mean, throughout history, when you try to stop something, you know, or, you know, label it dangerous, that only makes it more enticing to everyone.
Countercultural, it was rebellious. It was this authentic street culture.
A lot of these young people are disenfranchised and they are rapping about what they see, not necessarily what they are going to do. So it's too simplistic to say that because of this genre of music, there is a rise in knife and gang crime.
And so this debate grew and grew around free speech. The question being something around what is the definition of inciting violence? Does free speech protect that? If I jumped on a UK drill beat and said, I'm gonna stab Bob outside of McDonald's at 10 PM on Friday, I release that song and then go and do that thing, can the police use those lyrics as evidence in court? And furthermore, and much more controversially,
I feel like even here you can use those lyrics in court when you're that specific.
Can the police stop me from putting those lyrics out there because it might lead to real life violence? This became a big deal and people did research into it from the University of London, where they argued that the authorities' attempts to suppress speech were misguided and actually led to more harm.
Even though their narratives are causing chaos in those communities, what they're talking about is a reality that society don't want to deal with. And for me, this is where we need to shift the discussion to. Not just blaming and banning and censoring young people, but why really are you carrying knives? Why really are you carrying guns?
To me, banning drill completely misses the point. All it does is target a symptom of a much deeper problem. These are usually young men who grow up in these communities surrounded by violence, poverty, and come from broken homes. Often the only masculine role models that they can find are people who are in gangs, like older dudes, who people fear and respect. And so they see that as the only route for them to receive respect in this world too. What's really ironic is many of the rappers who make it out of this lifestyle and are successful often grow up into wanting to be these powerful, positive role models for these younger dudes. They want to show that it is possible to live a different life and get out of that. I mean, for example, Stormzy, he's always talking about his faith in God and his attitude to rising out of the world he came from. And like, sure, drill and roadman culture definitely did glamorize violence. It probably did make things worse, but it isn't the problem itself, it's just a symptom of the problem. You have to assess what drives these men into these lifestyles and fix those problems, and not just simply ban their self-expression.
When we was younger before this music, there wasn't really a vision to like see anything outside of here. But now I'm sure that a lot of more people have hope and a lot more examples of people that have made steps further away from this place.
If you enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel and watch this video right here.
Yeah, that was definitely an interesting video. I never really had heard about any of this before, and I definitely don't think banning the music is gonna really solve much. I mean, I think Jimmy's definitely right that, you know, if you're gonna solve anything, you gotta actually deal with, you know, some of the deeper problems, but, you know, the odds of that happening in the world we live in doesn't seem very likely nowadays. This is obviously just a small glimpse of the issue on a whole. I don't know, I don't actually know how it turned out. Were they actually able to completely ban UK drill, and did it stay banned? This was clearly just like a little slice of, you know, everything that went on and partly how it, you know, came into being, but it definitely was a fascinating little glimpse into that, you know, that whole world. I'd be curious to hear down in the comments below what actually ended up happening, or if this is still kind of ongoing. Did it actually get banned altogether, or is it, you know, still, you know, thriving scene in the UK? Let me know what other videos on the UK you'd like me to check out in the comments below. Until next time, have a good one.